Good day, everyone, and welcome to NIM Capsule Podcast here at NIM Foundation. Thank you for joining us from wherever you're listening from. Today, we will be talking about what to do when you're running on empty. Well, I'm sure if you're listening to this, you're either experiencing or you've heard of what Nigerians in Nigeria are going through, the current political season, this epidemic, as someone would put it. Food prices are going up, subsidy removal, and more. Joining me today on this podcast, I have three amazing guests who will be introducing themselves. I'll start from the guy.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ahmed Miborno. I'm a program assistant with the communications department. Nice being here.
Thank you for joining us, Ahmed.
Afternoon, everyone. My name is Belsuk Tabgun Alimikena, and I'm one of the program managers here at NIM.
Welcome, Belsuk.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I am Valerie Ubuke, and I'm a psychologist at Private Mirrors. Happy to be here.
Welcome, Belsuk. Welcome, Valerie. Welcome, Ahmed. What to do when you're running on empty? So today's podcast is just going to be us saying it as it is, right? We all experience. We're all going through it. It's been different things at this point. But how do you even know that you're running on empty? Let me start with you.
Are you asking personally or?
Yes, personally.
Okay.
We want the tea. We want the tea.
Okay, so for me, it's a few things. I start to eat anyhow. I get easily irritated. I snap at everyone. I tend to not be motivated to do the things that I want to do. And then I isolate. So isolation is usually one of the last things I do. I don't want to interact with anybody. I just want to be in my own space. So when I start to experience these things, I know that, okay, something is up. I need to recharge. I need to refocus, re-strategize, whatever it is. But yeah, these are the things that I tend to experience when I'm running on empty.
Also, I know in addition to the many caps that you and crowns that you wear, you're an amazing mom. You're a phenomenal co-worker. I've worked with you for a while now, and I see how you're able to pull everyone together. But I know you'll be human being.
Am I? Thought I was an alien superstar, but okay.
I need you to tell us, like for real, you close here by 4-5, then you have to face another work. I'm not a mom, but I've heard that being a mom alone, it can be another 9 to 5 on its own. How do you know when you're really running on empty?
So for me, pretty much same as Valerie, but one of my main things is I'm easily irritable. Usually I'm a very tolerant, easygoing. I find everything funny. I don't take life too seriously. Once I start snapping, especially at people in my household, once I start snapping at them, once my voice even raises a little bit, then I know that, I need a break. I need to detach from reality briefly. Yeah. That's my main thing, really. I think I don't really isolate myself. I still go on as normal, but I just notice that my mood is easily affected and I get wound up quite easily.
Shout out to everyone that has been on the receiving end and not knows that you're going through it. Ahmed, I'm going to come from the Gen Z part, right? And forgive me, but it has to be said. You know, some people just feel like, you guys have it easy. You guys are the nonchalant generation. But I don't think it's true. I mean, as much as, you might have your own kind of disposition to stress and stress management, you still face it, right? Even as a guy, right? So, gist us.
So the first one is like Valerie, like with eating. So I find myself just eating junk. anyhow buying, eating. So it's more like eating and wasting money on food, essentially. And then on the normal, I'm more of a level-headed person. I don't really get irritated that much. But when I do, I isolate myself because I tend to get a bit, how will I say, physical. Not like physical in hurting somebody, but physical on myself. Like maybe if something is really aggravating, maybe I'll punch the wall or something like that. But then I used to do that when I was younger. But then now, even though I'm not that old, but as I'm getting older, like
your mom will tell you.
I'm realizing, like, because I've watched like a lot of YouTube videos and read a lot of books trying to like get over this thing. So it's just meditating, and then from the religious part, praying as well. Like leaving everything in the hand of God. So basically, like, there's this saying, if God would not give you something that he knows you cannot handle, right? Yeah. So if any problem comes to me in that sense, that's the first thing that comes to my head. And then it just resets my brain. Instead of going into that abusive phase in abusing myself, I just tunnel my mind in, okay, how can I solve this? Instead of crying about it, nobody's going to fix it for me. I have to fix it for myself, essentially.
I like what you said about turning to religion and finding some sort of solace there. I think it's fair to say we've all gone through phases of sadness, right? I'm a firm believer that every feeling, every emotion deserves to be felt. And it doesn't make you a weakling or something if, you are going through it. I think it's what we do with ourselves afterwards that really matter. So let's get into the deep stuff now.
Let's go doing.
Yeah, let's go. So let's delve into the topic of navigating sad times. Let's share some effective strategies of coping with grief, loss, emotional pain, and the rest. But more from a practical level, right? If it's okay with you, please share with us some stories or some things that you've actually been through, and how you're able to cope. We're hoping that with this podcast, someone who is going through it is able to learn and is able to also come through it as well. Also, do you want to
can I start? Yes,
please.
Okay, maybe let me pick a particular incident just because there was a memorial yesterday. So I lost a very close cousin. Well, she was like my sister about 6 years ago. She just had a baby and then died 2 weeks after the baby. Had the baby, went into a coma, and then passed from there. So she didn't even meet her child. So when she passed, although you saw it coming because she was in a coma, so we're like, what's the likelihood of someone coming out of a coma after, 2 weeks? So at the time, I remember getting to the hospital, and then one of my cousins, Emil, was crying, and then people were telling him, he shouldn't cry, like he needs to be strong. And I was like, no, let him cry. So I think I cried probably that day. Then I went into my Belsuk mode, I guess, which was I had to, help out with funeral planning, do the program for the funeral, food, drinks, so just planning the funeral. So I think I was running on adrenaline for a while. Literally, the day we buried her, the next day, I couldn't get out of bed. They said I had malaria plus. I don't get malaria. Anyway, I couldn't get out of bed. I was shivering when they said they needed to admit me in the hospital. But I realized it wasn't actually malaria. I wasn't sick. My body just shut down at that moment in time. So I think firstly realizing that maybe at that time I didn't really deal with all the emotions I needed to deal with, because I was like, okay, if I break down now, who's going to plan the funeral? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? But if I had just taken a moment, maybe sit back and then be like, okay, let me deal with my emotions and I can still deal with this. But I think at that time you think I can't. Well, at that time I felt I can't deal with both of these at the same time. So let me deal with the immediate one, which is that she needs to be buried. And then I will deal with those other emotions afterwards, which I did. So I think what you want to know how I coped with it.
Yeah.
How did I cope? Really, so I'm a music lover, as everybody I think knows. So I went into I just listened to a lot of music, gospel music, R&B music, any music that made me feel good. And then prayer as well, just trying to find my center again. And then focusing on the people that I still had around me, instead of focusing on someone that had gone as much as I missed her, etc. But I was also focused on okay, I'm blessed. I still have so many people left here. So I just tried to focus on the positives and how to move forward. I'm a very practical person, so I don't really dwell. So I'm just I'm a solutions person. Okay, what next? I'm not really somebody that dwells. So I think maybe with my kind of personality, it was a bit easier to move on and move forward. Not like the pain wasn't there or the hurt or the grief, but I was just somehow able to get past everything, still dealing with those things. But knowing that you can have multiple emotions at once. You don't have to necessarily let one completely take over. You are able to sort of maybe compartmentalize. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but you deal with each emotion as and when you need to. Not to ever suppress anything, but just deal with them as and when they come up. Deal with them and then let them pass, but don't dwell on it too much.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a 90s song by Fergie, Big Girls Don't Cry. We have that mentality.
Very important.
It's great to cry.
I was going to ask, yes, and it's very necessary. And I was going to ask Valerie, we have a sort of don't let your emotions show mentality, especially for guys. And then Fergie with Big Girls Don't Cry. And it almost seems like, when you cry, you're exhibiting traits of weakness, right? But how true is that? Considering the context of our Nigerian culture and everything, and how toxic masculinity or femininity seems to be the tougher you are, the more valued you are as a man or as a woman. How important is that in terms of also identifying and acknowledging the feelings that you go through, especially during the sad times?
Okay, so a few things. First, I wanted to piggyback what she said with regards to telling the guy not to cry, right? Still in relation to your question, is unfortunately, or fortunately, culture plays a huge part in how people think they should grieve, right? So we may have the visuals or idea of Patience Ezoko rolling on the floor and crying as a woman, and then the man just, being quiet and being mute. And so you find that, unfortunately, when someone is grieving, when they don't cry, they might, even within themselves, without someone telling them, they might feel that something is wrong with them. And the man who is crying might also feel like something is wrong with them. Why? Because culture has sort of taught us a specific way to grieve. But that's not it, because there's no standardized or global way in which you should grieve the loss of someone, right? So on the part of a man, I would say showing your emotions or vulnerability is not weakness. It's in fact your strength, right? Because holding your emotions or suppressing your emotions, what that does in turn, in the long run, is unfortunately it would also teach you to not be so empathetic to others, because you've told yourself showing emotions is weakness. When you see a friend or a family member or a loved one that is showing their emotions, like, guy, calm down, it's not that deep, right? As opposed to empathizing with them and letting them know that it's okay, let it out. So I would say it's definitely something we still need to work on in this part of the world. I think worldwide, really, men are told not to show emotions, but especially in Africa, in Nigeria, you're told to just man up and be a man. But vulnerability is really your strength, right? Because then you're able to tap into every aspect of what you're feeling. The other thing I wanted to say is, I think what might have helped you there is also self-awareness. You knew that, okay, I'm grieving. You knew that you needed to plan all of the funeral. You knew that when you broke down, it wasn't malaria, right? You just, right? So self-awareness is very important. And self-awareness is not just knowing yourself or understanding yourself, right? Self-awareness is knowing that, for example, in that period, if someone had done something and you snapped, self-awareness is knowing that it's not particularly what they did, there are other things underneath that is like piling up that has gotten you to that point of snapping, right? So I think self-awareness is important also when it comes to dealing with grieving. Also, I want to point out that grieving, I think when we think about grief, we think only about the loss of someone, but it's also the loss of something important to you. It could be the loss of a job, it could be the loss of a relationship, it could be the loss of identity, right? You miss who you used to be. As a result of life, something has happened, you're now a more angry person, you miss being a more loving person. So grief does not only relate to losing someone important to you or losing someone, but also relate to losing things that are important to you.
Absolutely. I do agree with you. Ahmed, I'm sure you must have heard the term man up.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel in times when you really needed to express yourself?
Okay. I would like to give a story when I was younger, because it happened to me when I was younger, and it gave me the tools essentially now to handle the world that everybody has explained the way it is. So I can remember when I was like maybe around 7, 8. So I'm the youngest out of all my cousins that are guys. I'm the youngest person. So naturally, I'm going to get picked on. Everybody's going to look for my trouble. I'm the baby, so everybody's going to tease me. So from there, when I was younger, I used to be very emotional in terms of whether it was physical or verbal. I used to be very out. So when they used to do all those things, like they used to touch my buttons a lot, and I used to come out and be that person. But then growing up, like university, like that's when I got into watching YouTube videos, reading books and stuff like that. So I just saw that there's no real point in me doing that. When people say man up, like I want to say vulnerability doesn't have to be crying. Like crying is not the only way to be vulnerable. Like you can be vulnerable in your kindness, you can be vulnerable in the way you talk to somebody. Like that's the vulnerability is the way you make somebody perceive you and feel that thing from you, essentially. So you don't have to go and be crying all about. But crying isn't wrong, essentially. But that's what I'm trying to say. So
just from that you're human.
Exactly. So from growing up, being teased, knowledge, reading, understanding myself better, that got me to get over man up, the phrase man up. And right now, if anybody says that to me, I don't really care what you're saying, because why are you saying that to me? Essentially, are you saying that means you're saying I'm not a man enough? Exactly, and that's not because I'm biologically a man. So there's you can't say I'm not a man anymore. Essentially, so that's my own reason.
Wow. There's a part of me that I spoke about a while back, where I had talked about some abuse that I had gone through as a child, and it's amazing the amount of hurt or sadness that you can carry for a very long time. And I'm talking about decades. And you don't know they're there until someone reaches out and helps you find it. Or until you reach out there. It's like that dark room, and I'm going to come back to you, Bill. So when you talk about compartmentalizing, and how I like that you completed it by saying acknowledging everything, but for some people, we've locked up certain circumstances, certain emotions, and sort of thrown away the key. We know the door is there. We know that dark room is there, but we've just sort of ignored it for now. And we've gone through our lives, and then, 10, 15, 20 years down the line, something unlocks it. And, okay, Doi, get it together.
No, let out your emotions, Doi. Let out your emotions.
But it was really good being in a safe space where I was able to. Valerie, you were there. Were you there that day?
I don't think she was there.
Being in a safe space, and we're going to talk about it, where I was able to open that door and let it out, right? And I didn't know how much hurt I've, held over the years. When we talk about reclaiming your energy, because that is what I got that day, right? I was able to deal with what happened that day. I was able to forgive myself. I was able to forgive the abuser. And I was able to mentally move on, right? It felt like I'd opened that door, I'd cleaned out the cobwebs and everything, and I was ready to invite a better emotion into that room, right? For someone listening today and they feel like they've lost that energy, they feel like maybe someone walks into a door and that changes their mood, how are they able to reclaim their energy? Valerie?
Okay. I think the first thing would be knowing your sources of hope and joy. I say that because personally, I recently went through something that has been like a very strong emotional pain for me. And you would think, as a psychologist, I know how to deal with this. But I'm human, right? And it took me reaching out. Remember, I said initially I like to isolate. Yeah. It took me reaching out to a friend, her coming over, and me just crying for half an hour, and her hugging me for almost half an hour, and just staying there for me to feel like, okay, I can deal with this. But I needed to know that I needed that, right? I needed to understand that, okay, Valerie, you can't deal with this on your own. You're going through pain right now. Sleeping and sulking and crying, you've done that for a few days. It's time to reach out to someone, right? So I would say the first thing is knowing your sources of hope and joy. Your source of reconnection, someone, it could be family, it could be friends, it could be your religion, it could whatever it is, but just knowing that you have that and you can reach out to that for reconnection, to remind yourself that you can actually get through it. I think that's maybe the most important thing you can do. Yeah.
But how does that work for introverts, though? Someone like me, I am 100% when I'm alone. I feel like that, right? And there's some people who can't spend 1 hour. They're either chatting or looking for someone to call and all. But so when it comes to how we're able to identify those sources, for you, how does that work? What does that look like?
Well, I've lived many years. I won't say how many. Well, not that many, to be fair.
Like 16?
But then, you got it. I'll pay you later, though. I wanted to just say something of what Valerie said, and you said if you're an introvert, right? I think if you're an introvert, back to also the self-awareness, knowing yourself, knowing the kind of person you are, knowing what works for you. For some people, reaching out may work. For some other people, they may just need to write it down. But it needs to come out. I think the most important thing here that it needs to come out. The emotion needs to come out. And we're hoping, preferably not in negative ways, in positive ways, but there's a lot of ways to get out your emotions. Sometimes when I know that I'm getting to that level of stress, or, I'm running on empty, I know that what I need to do is recharge. What do I need to recharge? Okay, maybe I need to go to the gym. Maybe I need to lock myself in my room for 1 hour, just listen to music, no disturbance. Maybe I need to write it down. We were having a discussion earlier before this started, and I was saying I used to write music. And part of that writing music, though I used to sell the songs, but part of writing the music was actually just to get out like things I was feeling, frustrations, whatever it was. I know I wrote a particular song when I think I was maybe 15 or 16 or something like that. You have African parents, you may not really feel you can talk to them about a lot of stuff. I was feeling a lot of pressure, maybe as a young woman, as a young girl, to be a certain way, act a certain way, do this, do this, do this, don't do this, but do this, don't do this, but do this, get an education, but don't have too many opinions. Like, it was so confusing to me, and I had nobody to talk to. I couldn't talk to my parents. I couldn't say, like, why are you guys, you're confusing me with your messaging. So I wrote a song about it, and I felt much better about it. So anytime I started getting back into that headspace, I would just go back and refer back to that. There are so many things now, anonymous blogs, there are different places you can go to get that release, but you need to get it out. I think it's just, don't hold it in. I think that's when it becomes dangerous and it becomes toxic.
I would really like to learn
about my songwriting.
But Ahmed had said something earlier, and from the work we do here at Neem Foundation, we see that a lot of things that okay, so let me put it this way. For men who abuse their wives, we see that a lot of them actually learned it from the family where they grew up. Ahmed said something, on physical release of pent-up energy. And I've heard of situations where the man would say, I was feeling stressed at the time and I needed to, and I didn't know, I just hit my wife or something like that. That is in no way condoning domestic violence. But, I mean, this could also be sort of like a trigger. How were you able to deal with that? You mentioned that when you were younger, you used to hit the wall. I think it starts from there, right? Yeah. The wall would then become inconvenient and you need somebody that would be able to react to it, right? How are you able to reclaim yourself from that and be able to release those pent-up energy in a safe and healthy way?
Okay, so I want to say first, when I was younger, I actually used to be violent to people, right? When, just like you explained, from going to the wall, then you're used to the wall now, then somebody triggers you in public, and then you can't control yourself and you just do it. So I want to give thanks to my cousin, because he was the person that really refined me for the person I am today. So when he saw I was going into that path, he just took me to the gym. He said, let's go to the gym. So from there, punching bags, weight, before I knew, I forgot what I was just thinking about how I could improve myself in that moment. So from there, I just realized it's all depending on you, just like Mrs. Balsuk said about self-awareness, knowing what fits you. So at that time, that was what substituted the violence that I was doing. But now, as I've grown, it's more simpler things like watching Chelsea football team. Immediately I see the Chelsea blue. My heart is just open, like I'm just smiling.
Arsenal fans can't really.
We cannot.
I'm sorry.
No,
So-
we love Arsenal.
Mm,
Sorry, where were you guys in the table?
Wow.
Have you ever won Champions League? Thank you
Wow.
very much.
Now we're going to the past. Currently, where are you guys in the table? Where were you guys?
You know, we are going to a tough time, but it's all part of the plan. So essentially,
plan.
essentially that's what I did. So now it's more of simpler things, watching Chelsea football, little things like watching anime. So just watching the comedic relief, it just takes everything away. And then when I sit down and I think about it back, I'm thinking about it with a fresh mind. And then I also try to have this ability of seeing things from the other side, from multiple sides. So I even like anonymously just ask people, like, I'll just go and meet someone. Oh, this thing happened. This happened. What do you think about it? But it happened to me, but I won't tell them it happened to me. So I'll just get their own take about it. Then I'll sit, deep thoughts about it. Okay, this how it is. This how it is. This from this point of view. This point of view. Then I mix everything up and I just like self-awareness. I know how to deal with it now.
Yeah.
So thank God for that.
That's amazing. Yes.
Okay. No, I just wanted to add something just based on what Ahmed just said in terms of looking at things from different perspectives. I know one of the things we always promote at NEEM, even with all our education curriculums, is critical thinking, even when we're doing social emotional learning, etc., encouraging critical thinking. I think that really helps as you're growing up. Ties in again to the self-awareness. Okay, why am I angry? Is this reaction worth what I'm about? Is it worth what happened? Like, is the reaction equal to the action or whatever it is that happened to me? So
or
I
is
think
it a build-up of things
of
that
different
happened
things,
before?
exactly. But being able to stop and just think and process your thoughts and see where you're at and why you are there. I think if we develop that or encourage that in children and really teach children those skills from a young age, I think we'll have adults with fewer issues.
Can I just say that I'm really happy about this new stock of humans and the parents that will grow up to become. Yo, we receive some bulala. And sometimes, it's not that what you did was really that offensive.
It probably wasn't.
It's probably they've been through stuff out there and they're already pent up, and maybe you just didn't wash your plate well and you're already collecting bags, right? And which is why, for you listeners out there, I would really like to say, if you feel like you can relate to what I just said, deep down there might be something in you that feels like that is the right way to raise your child. I'm not saying, I know that there are some children that are, God just like, yo, just go to the earth, just stress me here, right? But then I think for the larger population, especially in Nigeria, where we still physically exert our authority or our frustration on children, there's still hope. NEEM Foundation has a psychology arm called NEEM Sanctuary, where we offer affordable and available therapy to everyone, wherever you are. Please reach out to us. You can follow, wherever you're listening to this podcast from, you can just follow the link and it will send you straight to NEEM Sanctuary. We also have a very competent therapist here who is also will share our own contact details shortly. Please, it's important. It's very, very important. I used to believe that therapy was a luxury. I used to believe that, and but it wasn't until I had that mini therapy session, that I was able to identify that there are still some things that are unresolved for me, and two, the things that I used to, or the ways I used to sort of resolve my pent-up energy. For me, it's isolation, right? I'll just shut everyone off. Both my loved ones and my not loved ones, I just shut everyone out. And at that point, people who really care about me feel like they've done something wrong, and then they start to panic. right? Because normally I'm a very energetic person. Belsuk knows that I think Belsuk is one of the persons that, one of the few people that know when I'm 100% and when I'm down. And she just look at me, you're not 100%, right? Because, for me, it's just shutting everyone out. And it's really not that healthy, because for me, it's more, everything that goes up in my head at that time is just thinking of different scenarios and different things, and at the end of the day, I just wear myself out and come out of it. I don't really resolve it, right? I just wear myself out and then come out of it and then continue my life, right? So please seek help today. It doesn't mean that you're less than a woman, less than a man. Talk to someone today and you will be happy for it. Let's go to cultivating resilience and seeking help and support. Ahmed, I'm going to come to you with regards seeking help, because I know it can be difficult, especially for proud Nigerians to say, I need help, right? It can be really difficult, right? But before we get there, Belsuk, when it comes to cultivating resilience, most Nigerians at this point, the word in their mouth is brace up for the days to come, right? I mean, we just went through Shege. So people are saying we are in Shege Pro Max. and people are just saying, brace up. How do we cultivate resilience in the sense that life is not promised to be smooth and is not promised to always be bad? So how do we groom ourselves in such a way that even when we are faced with the bad times, we are able to deal with it and cope and come out better?
So, firstly, understanding that, life is in, ebbs and flows. Life is never just up. Life is never just down. There's a quote I always put up on my, my social media, which says, the bad thing is nothing lasts forever. The good thing is nothing lasts forever.
Absolutely.
So it's going to pass. And my mom is, my mom's quote is, this too shall pass. Everything, there's nothing that is permanent. So when it comes, you have to have the right people around you, the right support, the right skills, coping mechanisms for yourself, or knowing where to get, such help from, to be able to go through it. Resilience, nobody is born resilient. I know they just say, Nigerians, no, nobody is born resilient. You build resilience over time. That is, you go through something difficult, you get through it in a safe and healthy way, you come out of it. Next time such a thing comes, you're going to be more likely than not, you can cope, because it's like, okay, I've been here before. I think maybe membranes or whatever it is, they have some kind of memory that knows that, okay, I've been through this before. I can cope with it. This looks familiar. There's an Oprah Winfrey book called What Happened to You. I don't know if you've read it, Valerie. So I can't really quote the science in it, but basically it's just that your nervous system, your brain, everything is kind of connected. So it knows when something has happened to you before. That's why there are triggers. And something that happened 20 years ago, someone might just pass you and it triggers something. It may be a smell. It may be how someone smiled at you. It triggers it because those memories actually remain in your body. So I think being able to go through things, come out of them the other side, and actually pat yourself on the back like, yes, I got through this. So next time I can face it again, or I can face something different, and I would still get through it. I think just knowing that, I think, is probably how you build up resilience over time. But like I said, nobody is born resilient. It's actually something you have to practice and groom within yourself, and then you build that particular skill.
Absolutely. But
I wanted to say something also, that resilience is not endurance. I think people tend to confuse both. Like, I have to endure the hard times. No, if you go through the hard times doing nothing, you would go through another hard time not being able to doing literally, right? So resilience is not endurance. It's rather building your ability, your mind's flexibility, right? I would say mental flexibility, right? just as she said, when you're going through something, unfortunately, as human beings, we tend not to remember, right? So it takes intentionality for you to be able to build your resilience, right? We unfortunately tend to remember only the negatives. Hence why we're constantly talking about trauma, talking about triggers. You remember the bad, you remember the negative, unfortunately, more than the positive, right? So it's important that you build your resilience by being intentional. Okay, I've been able to get through this. Build a box, so to speak, or a box of coping mechanisms, right? Have your tools, personal tools that you know that, okay, how do I remember that I went through something similar and I have my tools, my skills, my resources to be able to manage this challenge, right? So the first thing is resilience is not endurance, it's mental flexibility. And second thing is you have to be deliberate and intentional about building that, practicing that.
I like what you said, because I was going to ask you a similar question to what you just said. Nigerians are well known to be really adaptive. It's both our strength and our weakness. It's our strength in the sense that whatever we're going through right now, we would just find a way to cope, right? And it's our weakness in the sense that a lot of us are just coping.
Surviving.
Permanently surviving, just going through it. You know, is that healthy? And if not, how? It can't be.
It's definitely not
so
healthy.
Where do we need to start that perception change?
I just want to, sorry, before Valerie goes, I just want to give an example of this. There's times when I come out of my house, 6, maybe go to the gym, come back, I'm coming to work, maybe 8 something, and you see people fighting on the road. And I'll be like, what happened that you're fighting at 8 a.m. in the morning? Like, what could be so bad? But then you realize that people are frustrated, people have pent up anger, they're stressed. So I think a lot of times and in a lot of ways, Nigerians actually, as much as people say they're so resilient, I don't believe so. They're just, it's the endurance, I think. They're just enduring, going through the hard times. But you can see from these, from the outcome of their frustrations or whatever it is, that they're really not coping. Or they're really not, getting through it in a positive way. People are just getting through it because maybe they don't have an option. Or they don't know where to get help from, or whatever it is. But when you see those things, or you see someone driving past, insulting someone else, people are frustrated. People are like they're done, and a lot of people don't know where to go to get help. And as Valerie said, it's a practice. But if you haven't gotten the help the first time, you don't know what tools work, you don't know what to practice, you don't know what you're practicing, you don't know what you're looking for. So I just wanted to add that to say that Nigerians are just coping.
We will come to your answer, and so I just want to add this to the question. So there was a research I read, I think about 2 years ago, as to why there is a lot of clubs in Lagos, and we found out that most people just use that as an outlet for everything they've gone through the week, right? And so you see things like drugs. Substance abuse, very prevalent in those clubs where people just come and they just, what, I've tried. I've tried.
I deserve this.
I deserve it. And it can't be healthy, right?
I mean, I think there's a thin line, right? Of course, it's okay to go out a few times and have fun with your friends and whatnot. But the moment that becomes your only coping mechanism, it's a problem, right? Because what you're doing then is you're not you're not dealing with the problem. You're not, right? And you're not building resilience, right? You're just telling yourself, whenever there's an issue, let's just go through it. At the end of the week, we're entering the club, right? So we're going to deal with this at the club, right? That's not a healthy way to deal with challenges or issues. I also wanted to say, the example you gave, Belsuk, is the perfect example of seeing the result of endurance, right? Because we have a lot of angry people out there, right? You think you're dealing or you're managing with the situations, but what that in turn is doing is you're becoming an angry person. Like, you wonder why Nigerians are angry. You could be walking on the streets and maybe you just mistakenly brush their shoulder. It's a problem. You get into a fight. It's like, because internally, right, you are, what's the word I'm looking for? You are, for lack of a better word, reducing your ability to deal or get on with life, so to speak, right? The strength you would need to enjoy things or to have a good life, right? You are expelling that strength into surviving, right? I don't know if that makes sense. You're expelling that strength into surviving. And so I think it's important in general, right, that first of all, you ask the question of how do we change that perspective, right? It starts with you. It starts with the person on the street having a conversation. It may sound, don't go and collect slap somewhere, but it may sound weird, but then it starts with you. If you know, right, you've built your self-awareness, you've learned how to manage your emotions, your help at home, your driver, your staff, whatever it is, right? Have a conversation with them. Teach them, right, that dealing with issues does not necessarily have to be violently or aggressive or unhealthy, right? There are other ways to do it. Think critical thinking. Teach them how to think critically. All hope is not lost with adults, right? It starts with the kids, of course, but also it's equally important to teach the adults, right? So I would say it definitely starts with you. Learn to build your own self-awareness, build your own resilience, and you can teach other people.
Has anyone seen Beef on Netflix?
Yes. Oh my goodness.
So I think that just captures this
Yeah.
whole thing
Yeah.
about the fact that there are so many angry people out
Yes.
there who are not dealing with their actual issues.
Yeah.
They're just taking all their frustration out on a random person in a car park.
Yeah.
And you see from that show, have you seen it, Ahmed?
I've heard about it, but
Please,
I've
yes.
I told you to watch it. In
Movie
Ahmed.
recommendation plug right now.
Yes, please. No, it's such. I've
Definitely
recommended
watch
that show to everybody, and they were both frustrated, and then it just snowballed into something else and something else, just because, and it was all because they hadn't dealt with their own issues at home. So it's just an example of the fact that everybody has something going on. So.
And
If you don't deal with it, you're going to take it out on the next person, and that's not actually who your problem.
Yeah, I was going to say, unfortunately, as well, reason why I'm also saying, to teach others when is people don't really know. They just know that they're angry.
Yeah.
They just know that they're constantly fighting. It's become a part of them, but then teach them, right? Just the same way you were in that safe space and you realize, oh, actually, there's something I haven't dealt with. It's the same way having a conversation. You have no idea what the power of one conversation can do, right? Just having a simple conversation will make them rethink and realize, bruh, I'm just an angry person.
Even if you just see people that maybe you see the VIO guy or somebody and they're shouting.
Yeah.
I've realized when you approach them like very nicely, I'm like,
yes.
Guy, why they vex? They relax. It actually disarms them completely. And then you start talking and you start, and well, they let me off. But, but actually that conversation, like Valerie is saying, it goes a long, it really goes a long way. It goes a long way.
That's actually a really good hack. Please, listeners, in addition to getting your papers right, once you are stopped on the road, at least have a smile.
Have a smile. Greet them. They're human beings too.
Do you know this thing actually pisses me out when I go to a restaurant and I see the way people treat waiters.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Am I not paying my money? I think I've seen just a good morning, what that has done to, someone who has been maybe staying overnight, right? There was a day I went to a restaurant, not a restaurant, a supermarket, 24-hour supermarket. I needed the drug very early in the morning, a medication. Please, I don't do drugs. A medication very early in the morning, and I could see that these people were up almost all night. And I was just like, good morning, how are you doing? Sorry, I know you've not slept. I will not bother you too much. How much is this? And she felt really good. She felt so good. And actually, they were running a promo that day, and she told me that, oh, sir, there's a promo and everything. If you do this, you do that. And I was like, oh, thank you. I probably would not have gotten that tip if I was just giving my medicine, how much is it, and everything. So please be kind to whoever. Ahmed.
Yes.
As guy to guy, it's going to be somehow when I'm like, Ahmed, just hug me.
Well, I don't really mind that.
No,
but it depends. Okay,
Ahmed,
no,
you understand?
I understand what you mean. I understand what you mean, but like,
right?
Yeah.
You see things where a lady is able to hold the hand of another lady and walk down the street.
Yeah.
For guys, LGTBI.
14 years right there.
For us, seeking help and support is a little different.
Yeah.
So a 2-part question. How do you seek help? Give us real... And how do you offer help?
Okay. So for seeking help, so like personally, I don't like saying I have a lot of friends. I have a very close group of friends, and in my close group of friends, the people that I've selected for you to be my friend, I know I can trust you with whatever it is that I have. Obviously, not everybody is going to get every problem that I have or anything, but within my friend group and my family, my cousins, the guys in my family, me personally, I don't really have issues with hugging or holding hands or even saying, bro, I love you, like that kind of thing. Like I can say, bro, I love you, like, how far are you? You'll be like, bro, I love you, like, I'm not lying to you, that type of thing, yeah? But still, personally, I can't say that to somebody I don't know.
Yeah.
If it's just like a guy I meet today, I'll be like, okay, I'm on my guard a bit, because in this world, I like to tell people not to be too trusting. Just like saying back to sources of comfort and everything. It's good to have people around, but you should choose and filter those people, because not everybody is out for your best interests at heart. So, but me personally, I pick and choose. Even between my friends, I pick and choose who I tell issues. I know, okay, if I tell this person this issue, okay, I know he might help me with this issue. This person I know. So that's how personally I do it. So I have thank God I have a very close group of friends and family that I can go to for these type of things. And then how I give advice or I comfort. So I just try and have it in my demeanor that if I'm talking to you, you can tell me anything. I like making people feel comfortable. I have this thing that my friends say that I'm like a social butterfly and an introvert at the same time. So just like you saying, when I go home, I'm in my room. I don't like leaving home. I don't go out of the house. I'm in my room, that type of thing. But when I'm outside and when I'm with people, I make an effort to actually know what the type of things you're into and then see how we can bounce off of each other. Yeah. So I've figured out that really shows people that you are really open-minded and receptive, and that's what I try to portray outside. Because personally, I like helping people with their problems. That's essentially why I'm in this humanitarian sector from the beginning, helping people, seeing actually change. If I advise someone and the person takes my advice and it turns out for the good, and the person is coming to me and saying, oh my God, your advice was so good. In my head, I'm like, okay, I'm just giving you a play from my own book, and I'm so happy it's working for you. So that's just what I try to do. I just try to be open, receptive, and be open-minded as possible.
Ladies and gentlemen,
sorry, I know we're almost done. I was just going to say, I think in the Nigerian context, I know you're saying with guys, but I think it's improving slightly. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah,
I think with MI, he did that album intentionally, My Guy. And then you see after that album, MI is he's always talking about, mental health. Guys, reach out to each other, check on each other. And from there, I started seeing so many people using that as like their phrase, even for their posters. I can't remember which brand was using it. So billboards everywhere. My guy, my guy, my guy. So I think the conversation has started more. You see, Johnny Drill had a song. Now, Spyro has a song. So I think with those kind of things coming up, we know we have a different generation of people now. So maybe that's the way to communicate that with them. Just if you use one of those lines in those songs and just say, okay, how are you, my friend? Just chat. You'd be surprised, what you may get back. So I think it's improving. I don't think it's as bad as it used to be. It still has a way to go, but I think there's definitely some progress in that aspect, and thanks to music.
Absolutely.
And to be honest, I find it very heartwarming when I see bromance. So you guys should
same.
same here. Doing it, please.
But bromance can be in different ways.
No.
There's a certain somebody that used to be in this office, but I'll not mention names. Our own bromance is beefy with each other. Like
it's beefing.
Deep down, we know we are bros. We know that there's rarely anything that is going to come between us. But anytime we see each other, if he's touching me, I'm like, God, why are you touching me? Like, we are roommates and everything. Like, but deep down, we know it's all play. But when we get serious, we know, okay, this is time for a serious scene.
Yeah.
And when it's played, like, basically.
Ladies and gentlemen, this show has been amazing. We've been talking about what to do when you're running on empty. I'm here with Ahmed, Belsuk, and Valerie. Last question. Oh, before we get to the last question, we have two amazing people in the studio here with us. We have Amal, who is part of us here at NIN Foundation, and we have Chibuzo Chimamanda. Same person. 3 in 1. Just wave to the imaginary cloud. So let's wrap this up with building healthy habits. Belsuk. So we've talked about the different emotions, coping mechanisms, dealing with emotions, reclaiming your energy, navigating through sad time and stress, recognizing your signs, and even how to cultivate resilience. But I think all of this just ties in together on how to build healthy habits, right? And forming a lifestyle. So it's not just a Sunday medicine, right? It's a lifestyle. It's who you are, right? What's that for you?
For me, my healthy habits, as everyone knows, the gym. I work out a lot. That really helps me. I always say that's my safe space. That's my sanctuary. That's where I find my peace. Get into the gym, which ties in with the next thing, which is music. Get into the gym, put on my headphones, have my music on. It could be gospel music, R&B, rap, whatever I feel like listening to on that particular day. Then alone time is also important. For me, alone time is important, maybe because I have 2 kids in the house. So alone time is very important. I love to read. And I think I tell people I only read fiction, apart from the Oprah book. But I only read fiction. And I read fiction, I think, just because it takes me out of reality. Yeah. It's an escape, exactly. I can take my mind somewhere completely different. And by the time I come back, I'm a little bit refreshed. And I'm like, okay, I can think with a different mind now. So for me, those are the 3 things I really work. Okay, and also spending time with loved ones is also something that really works for me. Just laughing. I love to laugh. So any situation or anything that can make me laugh usually gets me out of whatever funk I'm in.
Valerie.
I see you looking at me. For me, it's so I have learned what works for me, and it is in the morning whenever, I always say this, if you see me having pancakes in the morning, it's going to be a good day, right? If I have my oat pancakes with bananas and honey and strawberries, it's going to be a good day. But
she used to pepper
That
us on
sounds
Instagram. She used to pepper
But
us.
also, what I've found is because that is something I enjoy, I stack that habit with reading. So when I'm eating that breakfast in the morning, I'm usually reading a book, fiction usually, right? It's usually a good start to my day, right? So just having a quiet in my head morning tends to help. The gym, even though I'm inconsistent, very inconsistent, but I realized that the few months that I was very consistent at the gym, I saw the results in my mental health, right?
I think it's scientific, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. It really is. There was a stark difference, a huge difference in my mental health. I was less irritable. I was less moody. So definitely, and even if you can't go to the gym, I mean,
Just walk.
exactly. Take a walk around your area, stretch in the morning, stretch in whatever time works for you, really. Just move your body, right? But also, I would say create time for the things that spark joy. Again, back to self-awareness, knowing the things that spark joy for you. Because what works for person A might not work for person B, right? So literally being intentional about creating the time for the things that spark joy. Hence a routine, right? Knowing that, okay, at this time of the day, in the morning, in the evening, I'm going to do this. But also, it shouldn't stop at having a morning routine or a night routine. During the day whilst you're working, right? Whilst you're doing something serious, so projects, listening to music, right? Knowing that, okay, I'm going to have my snack time, right? Where it's just going to be my me time or whatever it is, make sure you're incorporating these healthy habits into your, like, throughout the day, as opposed to just, bits like morning or evening. So, yeah, eating a lovely breakfast, reading in the morning, working out. Yeah, and having great conversations. I love to laugh, right? Things that just make me feel alive, so to speak, right? So having great conversations, those are some habits that I would say are great for me.
Thank you, Valerie. Ahmed, it started with you.
Yeah. So just to talk about what they're saying again, like being proactive in actually trying to improve yourself. And then, as Mrs. Belsuk was saying, going to the gym is scientific because you build discipline within yourself. And once you build discipline within that routine, it spreads across your life, and it's all subconscious. You wouldn't know it's happening. Because when you go to the gym, you're like, okay, this time I'm going to the gym. From this time to this time, I know I'm doing this exercise. I know I'm doing this amount of reps. I know I'm doing these sets. So it's like trickles down into your life and everything. So just like Valerie said, is like self-awareness, and you have to know what works for you. So for me, it's basically self-improvement. I'm always thinking about ways to because I have goals in my head. I have places that I want to be and things that I want to do. But I know it's like a journey. So it's always thinking about, okay, how can I improve myself? Like, and it's with the little things, like even at work, when let's say 12 of us were working together and you teach me something, I go back, I reflect, okay, then next time I know, okay, this is what I do. With football, like I play scenarios in my head. I play football a lot, like, and it's a source of peace for me. So like I actively do drills in my head, literally, and like it's just a way to take my mind off, just like Belsuk said, reality, and just thinking about something that makes you happy. And then the last thing is anime. I know it's cartoon,
I
but
love anime, so I'm with you
Like-
on
I
that
do
one.
too.
yeah,
I'm with you on that one.
because most people, I feel like they miss the point. Like, it's for entertainment, obviously, but the stories that are happening within that anime, there are real life things that you can apply to your own life.
Yeah.
And I've actually applied a lot of things to my own life, and I've seen positive improvements. So when I'm watching anime, it's just like I might learn something, and it's funny at the same time. So why not?
Why not?
Watch and have a laugh?
Yeah.
Like, so that's my
Absolutely.
own coping.
Thank
I
you.
wanted to add, in terms of eating, Just to give like a good understanding for everyone, there's actually a gut health connection to your mental health. So what you eat essentially affects your mental health. So if you're constantly feeding your body with junk, is whether you like it or not going to affect your mood. It's going to affect your ability to think properly, so to speak, your ability to concentrate or focus. But if you feed your body, your gut, with things that are actually healthy, positively is going to affect your mental health.
Literally.
So
You are what you eat. Literally.
literally, exactly. So it's very important that you are intentional about what you're putting into your body, not just for the fun of it, but just knowing that it affects you all round. Is that a word? It affects you mentally. So your mind and your body work hand in hand. So taking care of your physical health is going to affect your mental health. Taking care of your mental health also, they're just intertwined basically. So
my one take from this is something that reinforces what I was taught in elementary school under science, that says energy can't be created nor destroyed, but it can be converted from one state to another. So the energy you get from the external factors that comes into you, basically what we're saying is that we need to find another way to rechannel these energies out.
Yeah.
Right? So for some people, they get negative energies in them, but then it's totally up to you and how you're able to rechannel that energy into either something positive or something negative. So we use these different techniques, anime, reading, eating right, and the rest, to then rechannel those energies into something positive.
Yeah.
You guys have been amazing. Belsuk, Valerie, Ahmed, thank you so much for helping us. I'm going to leave you, the listeners, with something that Barnabas Howard said. Just when the caterpillar thought her life was over, she became a butterfly.
Oh, I love that.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So just for anyone who is listening and you feel like you're at rock bottom, you're at empty, you're about to be a butterfly. It's not over. A beautiful butterfly. It's not over. This phase that you're going through will refine you. You'll be better. The world needs you. You are enough. You are loved. And you have people who love you. We are here to listen to you. We are here to reach out, to be reached out to. Call us. Reach out to us, reach out to friends, reach out to people who care about you, and redirect that energy in a way that makes you blossom rather than destroy. Whew. Okay. Thank you very much.
Happy dance.
In case you didn't know what just happened, I did my happy dance. I felt really happy inside. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us on this journey of self-discovery and resilience. Remember, it's okay to feel overwhelmed and depleted at times, but you don't have to stay there. By recognizing the signs and seeking support and implementing self-care practices, you can refill your emotional tank and find joy and balance once again. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and share it with others who may benefit. Until next time, take care of yourself and remember, you're not alone. Stay strong, my friends. I'm Adedoyin Betiko, Senior Communications Officer here at New Foundation. Bye for now.
Bye.